What's up, everybody? Welcome to today's Motivational Monday for Monday, January 20th, 2020. Yes, Martin Luther King Jr. Day. I'm Denise Renee. I'm a creative entrepreneur, and in this series, I'm typically sharing personal life hacks and things that I think would be encouraging to people. But today I want to take a little bit more of a personal spin to this. In light of what we're celebrating for today, I'm going to be sharing something that crosses over into my personal opinions about race, culture, politics, and spirituality. If that's not a conversation that you're comfortable having, then I encourage you to click away now, and I'll see you back here on next Monday. But if you're not afraid of having a tough conversation and you're able to have it respectfully, then continue on. So my thought for today is, of course, in light of what we're celebrating today, I think about, man, how far we have come. And yet, not far enough. I was sitting in church yesterday and they played a video clip that was a tribute to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And it was very moving, and I was definitely very emotional over it. I mean, I wasn't crying boo-hoo, but I was really feeling a lot of different emotions. And there was a lot of things that it wasn't lost on me. And I was very appreciative, of the space that I was in. I'm a Black woman, and I was sitting in the church that's being pastored by a very wealthy white man. That just wouldn't have happened 52 years ago in 1968, the year that Dr. Martin Luther King died. Wouldn't have happened. Because I was born 5 years after he died in 1973, I was able to go to school at institutions that he literally only could dream about. 12 years ago, I was able to vote in a history-making election. Whether you loved him, hated him, or something in between, Barack Obama was the first African-American president of the United States of America, something that I don't even know if Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. even envisioned that. But his work paved the way for that. I live right now in a time and a space where I can pursue my dreams however I want to pursue them. And for the most part, I'm not harassed while doing so. As long as I remain a law-abiding and tax-paying citizen, I'm kind of okay. I'm not worried about someone burning me in my home, in my sleep. And in reality, in my day-to-day life, I don't face a lot of overt harassment because of the color of my skin or because of my gender. I'm not blocked from going places that I want to go. I don't have to fight for certain things. I can go on public transportation and expect to be treated with a fair amount of decency. And I expect to not be mistreated because of the color of my skin. So indeed, we have come far in 52 years. I mean, my son is going to be able to do things that even I may not be able to do. And yet, we haven't come far enough, in my opinion. On paper, yes, all Americans do have access to the same rights and education and opportunities that everybody else does. However, if you are a Black or brown person in this country, depending on where you live, those resources that are available to you might be skewed a little bit different. You may have different levels of opportunity available to you, depending on where you live. And I know because I grew up in the Bronx, New York. And in certain neighborhoods, you just don't get a Whole Foods market. You just don't have top-rated public schools. I will say also about growing up in New York City that I kind of grew up in a cultural bubble. I mean, that's the beauty of New York, where every single culture is there and represented. And I literally went to school with just about every type of ethnicity that you could think about. I went to school with Latinos, mostly Puerto Rican and Dominican. I went to school with Italians. I went to school, I can't say that I went to school with any Jewish people, but I definitely interacted with them. Indians, all different types of people from around Asia, even Eastern European. As a kid, I never really thought deeply about what it meant to be a minority because I was kind of in the majority of all the minorities, if that makes any kind of sense. I really didn't begin to understand racism until I went to school in Maine, where I felt like I practically doubled the Black population of the entire state just by being there. But it was an education on a multiplicity of levels. Sure, it was a prestigious school, but I really got to understand how other people think about Black people. And that was eye-opening. I began to see how racism has had kind of receded into the nooks and crannies of society. It was still there, just not overt. When I went back home after college to New York City and I started to move in the educational and corporate world, I began to see these subtleties some more. But I was able to kind of design my life by, quite frankly, sidestepping ignorance. If I didn't have to deal with somebody, I made sure that I didn't have to deal with them. And I only dealt with people as much as possible who dealt with me. People who didn't have a problem of seeing me as a person, because that's how I saw them. But even though I don't necessarily experience a whole lot of overt racism, I'm not ignorant to the fact that it's still here. It still exists. I mean, just ask the families of Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, or Eric Garner. Currently, I live in the Metro Atlanta area, and I feel relatively safe. But to be honest, I do my best to avoid going too far outside of the metro area into more rural areas of Georgia, because simply, I just don't know if something were to happen to me, would I be okay? That's a legit concern that I have in 2020. In fact, most of my travels throughout the United States have always been to major urban areas where I feel relatively safe amongst a healthy mix of other people who look like me. While I have someone like a Barack Obama to point my son to, I still have to educate him on how to act in public and especially how to act around police so that he has a greater chance of surviving the encounter. Real talk. And speaking presidentially, the fact that right after we had our first history-making Black president, the pendulum just swung in the way opposite direction of someone who presents himself as being very divisive and not really that concerned about the well-being of the diverse people that occupy this country. Personally, I long for the day when we can no longer look at each other through these lenses of race or lenses of what divides us. I would love for us to see ourselves and see each other through what unites us. We are all human beings created in the image of God. We all want to love and be loved freely. We all want to be able to pursue our passions and purpose and have all of our needs and desires met abundantly. We all want to see our family happy, safe, and thrive. I legit want to live in a world of peace, love, and harmony. Like, for real. I'd love to see the day when children have to look up the definition of racism, say, what's that? And struggle to imagine what that was like. I don't know if that's something that I'll get to see in my lifetime or if my son will see it in his lifetime. But I do think that it is possible to live harmoniously, even with all of our differences, as long as we look out for the good of the person to the right and to the left of us. But to do that, I think that it takes love. And it takes a very certain kind of love. And I think that you don't get to really know this kind of love until you get to know God through Christ Jesus and through that love that he demonstrated on this earth. That's how I think we're going to get to the peace, love, and harmony. Hashtag my opinion. Hashtag my faith. I have to say that the sermon that I heard yesterday just, Andy Stanley is just ridiculously gifted and brilliant as a communicator, because he literally put everything that I had been thinking about into very eloquent words. And I'd like to share that sermon with you, even if you're not like a big mega pastor, mega preacher kind of person. And I'm legit, I don't even know how I ended up at Buckhead Church, but I'm really enjoying certain aspects of my experience there. And one of the biggest aspects is his preaching and his teaching. And what he shared and how he shared it yesterday, I think is so key and critical for anybody, no matter what your faith is. And I'm going to drop a link in this video so that you can check it out for yourself. I just think that to be open and hear what someone has to say about how we can possibly move forward within this very divisive kind of climate, political climate that we're in right now, I think it's worth taking a listen. And while it's awesome to have a day like today to honor someone like a Dr. Martin Luther King, if we truly want to move the work that he represented forward, love is the way. Love is the only way. So I encourage you to check out that message from Andy Stanley that puts into way better words that I can, but it kind of pretty much summarizes everything that I said here. And I have to say that I had already planned like from Tuesday what I was going to say for today. But then I went into church yesterday and I was like, oh, he just said everything I had to say. You know, I know that this was a different type of Motivational Monday video, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you agree, cool. If not, we can definitely have a respectful conversation on our differences. Feel free to drop some comments and let me know what you think. And I appreciate you for supporting this video with a thumbs up or a heart and a share. And I'll see you guys in the next Motivational Monday video.